Okay, I'm here. I made it. Thank you for waiting. I don't know. Somehow I pulled off today, tonight. All right, so I don't know. Let's see if we can make it for the second day, because tomorrow is day 3. We'll be caught up. I don't know if this is an interesting trial or not. I don't know really what to think. I mean, the opening statements was interesting. Thanks, Mandy. I got a PJ thing for Maddie too. We're both wearing PJs. Me, yeah. I don't really know, man. We'll see. I'll see. I'm more interested in the witness testimony. I don't know where my phone's at. I heard it somewhere around here. By the way, if there's a chase tonight, this stream will stay up and I'll cover my thing there, but then I'll be jumping on the laptop. There's been multiple false flags tonight. Multiple. There's a chase. Oh, no, no, chopper's on the way. And canceled, or the person, they lost the vehicle, or the people are arrested or whatever. So it's been a bunch of like false flags today. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. The BJ. Gaza. 160, what's up? It's me coffee. Wait, is this actually live? I mean, I'm live, but the trial happened today. This was from earlier today. Tomorrow will be day 3. We'll be caught up if we're gonna watch it. So, all right, let's check it. Let's check it out.
Approached me and indicated she had been in the GOAT previously. I guess as a customer, I didn't ask any questions. I told her just to hold that comment and I would address it. Well, I didn't tell her I'd address it with you, but that was my plan. So, so I don't know what, if anything, you want me to do about that.
I don't necessarily have any inherent concern with somebody seeing something. If we had an accident on 93 that we're here litigating, we wouldn't exclude anyone that's been on 93. If defense wants something, maybe just a generic question that she agrees not to consider anything in reaching her determination of the fact of the law. But beyond that, I have no inherent concern about
Walk about. Bridge, what's up?
I was going to say maybe just an instruction that she consider whatever she saw during the view and not consider knowledge that she has of the, that is independent of that. A little bit.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to do because she's going to watch the video from inside the bar, and I mean she's in a slightly better position than other jurors to know the layout. I'm not sure that makes a big difference. Okay. Okay. So I guess what I'll do is I'll say generically to the jury that some of you may have gone to the GOAT in the past, because jurors are drawn from the community, we anticipate they might have some experience with the locations, and there's nothing wrong with that, and leave it at that. Okay. I had another question. The jurors asked one of the bailiffs a question about taking notes, so I'm just going to explain to them if this not to allow them to take notes. So, and explain why that is. So, okay, and then we can repass.
Can everyone's cell phone be turned off on silence mode, please?
Okay.
All right.
Been to the GOAT in the past, and so there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't create a conflict. So if any of you have been to that establishment before,
go to the GOAT.
That's not a problem. Jurors are drawn from the community in which the events are alleged to have occurred, and one of the expectations is that you might be familiar with the location, sometimes not. Some people are, obviously come from throughout Hillsborough County, and so some of you may be more or less familiar with those locations, but the fact that somebody happened to have been at that particular location in the past, as long as it wasn't on the night in question.
Okay, we get it.
That is, there are pros and cons to taking notes. You'll probably see me take notes. My job is very different than your job.
We can't take notes.
In this process. Your job is to determine the facts and to pay attention to the witnesses and to judge credibility. And so if, jurors are taking notes, that may
like the red?
distract you from paying attention to the jurors or paying attention to what's going up on the screens. The other risk with taking notes is that notes are not infallible, and what can happen is, once you're back in deliberations, if you have a disagreement about what a witness may have said or what may have happened during the trial, and one juror says, well, it's in my notes, so, that's got to be accurate, that juror then tends to have more power, I don't want to say, but more influence in the deliberations. That's why we have 12 people. The reality is that's a better decision-making process than a single person paying attention. Some of you pick up on different cues and different things, and that's why 12 people decide the case and not just one. So for the purposes of this trial, I'm not going to allow you to take notes either during the trial or don't take any notes to, jot down issues when you're either at home or back in deliberations. Okay? Thank you. All right, ready to call your next witness.
State calls to Officer Eric Smith.
Officer Eric Smith.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's water there if you need it for you. There's
Smith, S-M-I-T-H.
And where are you currently employed, Officer Smith?
I'm currently employed with the City of Myrtle Beach Police Department. I was employed with the Manchester Police Department from October 2022 up until October of 2023.
And is that when you moved to Myrtle Beach?
I was employed with the City of Myrtle Beach prior to working with Manchester. I have since returned back to the City of Myrtle Beach after leaving Manchester.
And what was your position at the time that
We're going to skip the qualification stuff.
you led?
Bar, we could go outside, but just to remain on the property for mainly officer prisons.
So did the GOAT have their own security there at the same time that you were there?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
And how much of a presence do they have in terms of security?
They usually had several. They would have a couple at the entry door. They would be scattered throughout the bar, a couple near the stage, back door, and throughout the establishment.
So if there was a disturbance while you were working, who would handle it?
The GOAT security.
And then what would your role be with regard to that?
It would just be a backup in case they needed any further assistance. However, there were usually several there to handle any other things that came up.
Were you wearing a uniform when you were working that night?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you have your standard equipment on you? Like, would you have your duty weapon and everything else on you?
Yeah, it was the full uniform, police radio, taser, firearm, handcuffs, everything.
When did your shift start that night on the 27th?
So the GOAT would hire us from 10 p.m. up until 2 a.m.
And that's after the bars closed then? You're staying through to the end?
Yeah, unless they release us early, but usually right up until 1:30 to 2 a.m.
So I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 33 up on the screen. Is that coming up on the screen in front of you also? Do you know what you're looking at in this picture?
Yep, this is the GOAT, the layout of the bar, of the whole establishment.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to come over to the larger version that's down here. And I know I've been told if you... Actually, do you mind going to the left side of the screen? I was told that we'll pick you up a little better on the microphone. Can you just show us where your position was when you were stationed there?
So this would be the front entrance. So usually I'd be anywhere at the front entry door, primarily in this corner here. So I could pretty much see anyone who came in to the bar. I really didn't go much beyond that. Usually right around here to this general area, and that's where I'd be.
I am
the
wearing
duration of
pants.
the night.
And you mentioned the other bouncers or security that are there. Where in general were people the night that you were there in terms of that type of presence?
So there would always be at least 2 at the entry door, and then scattered throughout. So usually one, this would kind of be like an office area, like a front desk. This gray box would be like a front desk area. You would have at least one here, and then scattered throughout. This is like a back door. I think you would usually have one in that general area to prevent people from leaving out the back door with alcohol, their beverage. But yeah, usually throughout the whole general area, they'd be scattered throughout.
All right. Thank you. You can go ahead and take a seat. Or checking IDs or screening anyone, or were you just there as presence?
No, ma'am. The GOAT security is actually pretty well trained at, with their special flashlights at looking at IDs and determining if they're legitimate. So I really never had any, role in checking IDs or anything like that.
How busy about was the GOAT that Friday night?
The GOAT is usually fairly busy. The dance floor area would be pretty well crowded. You'd be lucky to get a seat anywhere in there.
So I'd like to turn your attention now to around 12:40 a.m. What was happening inside the bar around that time?
So I noticed a large rush of people, mainly security, head to the ramp area, which is central to the bar.
And I hate to ask you to get back up, but do you mind just showing us again on the diagram where you're referring to, for the ramp?
So as I stated, I'd be somewhere in that general area, and I noticed that a lot of people were going to this central area where it says
Referring
ramp
to?
right here. And so I pretty much moved from that area to that other area as well.
Okay, thank you. So when you saw people moving towards that area, you're seeing security, can you describe what you did yourself?
The GOAT security had broken up the fight at that point. Everyone was pretty much separated. I really didn't have any role. They pretty much separated them instantly and moved them from that ramp area out to the front exit.
So to be clear, did you see the altercation itself, or did you just see the aftermath?
No, ma'am, I didn't see the altercation.
Were you able to see the individuals that were involved in the altercation?
Just one. I didn't see the actual fight happen, just essentially the aftermath.
Okay. So the person that you saw, can you describe what he looked like, what his appearance was like?
Very tall, heavy-set male, white, Caucasian.
And do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe him by where he's sitting?
I wonder if he's going to testify. Do you guys think
Full
he'll testify?
beard, shaved head, sport jacket, blue tie.
May the record just reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant, Your Honor. Can you describe what
There
the
he is.
defendant's appearance looked like to you at that time?
He had a laceration on the left side of his face in the cheek area.
And could you tell if that was bleeding at the time that you saw it?
It was a fresh injury, yes, ma'am.
You described him as being tall. Can you just describe his size for me? Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I'm 6'4", and he was taller than I am.
Yeah.
So he was at least 6'4", so above average height and above average build.
And when you say above average build, do you mind if I ask how much you weigh?
I weigh about 220,
And would you say that he was that weight or he was bigger than you?
definitely bigger.
And can you describe what his demeanor was like? Like, how was he acting at the time that you saw him?
He was aggravated from just being involved in an altercation.
And I won't ask you to kind of speculate why he was upset, but can you just tell me what you were seeing from him in terms of how did he sound, how did he look?
He was upset and yelling.
So you described that security moved him, and I know you weren't sure who else was involved, but was it all the way out the front door? Can you just explain for us where you saw them go?
Right around this main bar, out the main entrance exit, and he was ejected from the bar.
Okay. And did you follow out of the bar, or where did you go at that point?
I activated my body camera as he was being ejected, and I stopped my body camera. At this point, I was still inside the bar. However, a minute or two after, I did go to the exterior of the bar.
Okay. Thank you. So when you take a seat, I'm going to ask you a few questions first of all. At any point during that time that you were in the area of the defendant, you said he was yelling. Did you ever hear him ask you for help?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever hear him ask anybody else for help?
No, ma'am.
You were talking about your body cam. Can you just explain for the jury how that works? How do you use that as an officer?
The Manchester Police Department, they have a body camera where it will be activated by a wristwatch. So if I press the button 2 times, it would activate the camera. I had my wristwatch attached to my duty belt. So if I pressed it twice, it would activate the camera. The audio would come on after the fact. It's a 30-second delay. So the visual portion of it would be instantaneous. However, the audio would come on after the fact. It would have delay on it.
And is this running the whole time that you're working, or what? At what point do you activate it, or why do you activate it?
I activated it when I determined that there was an altercation.
So
And when I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
When I determined that there may be a police involvement, I activated.
So you hadn't been running it the whole time you were on the detail?
No, ma'am.
So I'm going to show you the beginning moments of what's marked as State's Exhibit, or has been entered as State's Exhibit 69. Do you recognize, this is like the still before it starts, do you recognize what we're looking at here?
Yes, ma'am.
That's right, Ribbon. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Officer Smith, can you just describe for us, first of all, does this look familiar to you? Have you reviewed this footage?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what is this, Deb?
Is it okay if I get up?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this bar area here would be the central bar that was in the last map of the establishment.
So we're looking into the goat from the perspective that you're standing?
Correct.
And I know it sounds like a strange question, but where on your body is the camera?
It would either be somewhere around my left pocket, because in the middle of my chest would be a zipper to attach my my vest with my equipment, so it would be on my left offset of the center.
Okay. So we're not seeing things from your eye the same way that your eye would have seen it. We're seeing it from lower.
Chest height.
Okay. And you can go ahead and take a seat and see. So as we're watching through this, as you'd indicated, there's no sound normally in the beginning when your camera starts?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And does it just turn on automatically at a certain point?
After that 30 second lag time.
Just
What I miss? Is the body cam?
going too far. I'll have to watch this again. So we're seeing you right now where you were initially stationed. When you start to turn, why are you turning? What's going on? Oh, sorry, as you start to move, I should say.
So, like this gentleman, for example, he has that flag on the back of his sweatshirt, hoodie sweatshirt. I recognize that they are security for the goat. So when I see them kind of scurrying to a location,
Ooh,
it's
kind of person drunk.
abnormal and there's something going on.
Okay. So, sorry, I confused the screen with it moving it. But so every time we're seeing that black sweatshirt with a looks like a white flag in the back, those are security?
Yep, it says Whiskey the People with the white American flag.
So when you were following right before the defendant leaves the goat, you described, so there's that Whiskey the People shirt. There's also some black sweatshirts that show like a white goat sign. Were those all bouncers that were?
Yes, ma'am. So they all work there in a security type role.
Okay. So all those people that we saw in front of you kind of walking out towards the exterior, those are all goat security? Okay. So you started to explain to us, what did you do after this point, after the defendant was kicked out of the goat?
It appeared that security had squashed the argument. The parties were separated, and he left willingly out of the bar.
So what did you do at this point?
Where I turned off my body camera, I stayed there for about a minute, but then I went outside as well.
And after you were outside, did you observe anything that caused you concern?
Not at that time. I had just been talking to a few people, and as stated in my police report, it had appeared that the argument had ended completely at that time.
What happened at that point?
Shortly thereafter, about a minute or two after I was outside, I heard several pops, which I determined to be gunshots.
And could you tell where those were coming from?
So they were coming from east of my location, which would have been toward the direction of Soho and Bank of America and Elm Street.
What did you do at that point when you heard what you believe were gunshots?
I immediately moved in the direction of the gunshots to where the sound was coming from.
And did you notify anyone of what was happening at that point?
Yes, so I went over my portable radio to notify dispatch that there were shots fired.
And what happened as you started to move in that area towards Soho?
As I took a few steps, I saw 2 or 3 young females in the opening of one of the businesses. It was another entryway, and they were huddled in like a fetal position, and it was clear that they were pretty scared. Once I determined that they were okay, I continued past them.
And what did you see as you moved past them down the road?
So after I passed them, I was on the sidewalk at that point, and I continued to walk in the middle of the street, Old Granite Street, to where I found the victim, Timothy Pouliot.
And what did you observe about Timothy Pouliot at that time?
He was on his back, sprawled out.
And about where was he in relation to the other buildings?
He was in the middle of the street, so maybe 10 or 20 feet from the business, from Soho.
Was there anyone else near him at that time?
Yeah, so he had one female on his left side and another female on his right side.
And did you know who those people were?
No,
Who
ma'am.
were with him? Okay. Did you ever identify who they were at that time?
No, ma'am.
When you said that Timothy Pouliot was lying down, did you make any observations about what his condition was at that point?
Things happened very quickly. I was unable to make contact, view him at all.
What did you do at that point? So if after you've seen him lying down and you see the two people on either side, where did you go? How did you know where to go next?
The female who was on the left side of his body pointed and said that the shooter was over there. She specifically said, "He's got a gun."
And when you say over there, where was this person gesturing? Were they gesturing, or were they indicating somehow?
Pointing toward the alley beside Soho.
And so what did you do at that time?
As I was standing there, I just rotated my body and was able to identify that the defendant was there with a firearm.
And did you recognize him as the person you had seen in the goat before?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe what he was doing when you first saw him?
He walked toward me a few steps, and then I drew my firearm and pointed it at him.
And you had said he had a firearm when you first saw him?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember what he was doing with it, where it was? How did you notice it?
It was in his right hand, and he really wasn't doing anything with it. It was just kind of off to his side.
Were there any other officers on the scene yet, or were you the first there?
Not at that time, however, backup arrived very quickly, approximately 20 seconds after I radioed for assistance.
So you said you drew your firearm
Yes, ma'am.
and you pointed it at him. How did he react?
He instantly put his firearm down on the ground and put his hands in the air.
And what did you do at that time?
I just held him at gunpoint. I notified dispatch that I had one subject at gunpoint, and about 10 seconds later, it was very quick, Officer Belleza came on scene, and he stood to the right of me.
And what happened at that point once he was on scene also?
As I held him at gunpoint, Officer Belleza detained him in handcuffs.
What happened with the firearm? Were you able to see that?
So after,
I should be specific, I'm sorry. The firearm the defendant was holding when you first arrived. What happened with that?
after he was detained, I was able to go up to the firearm and I kicked it back away from him, just so it was safe.
And you indicated Officer Belleza was the one that put him in handcuffs?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there other officers on the scene at this point, or was it still just the two of you?
Officer Belleza was the first officer on scene. However, within a minute or two, there were several additional officers who had come to the scene.
So I'm going to ask you to take a look. Okay, if we shut the lights again. So we talked about your body camera. Did you activate your body cam footage again? You've activated it the first time when the altercation happened in the bar. Did you activate it a second time?
Yes, ma'am. This was the second activation.
Do you remember about when you activated it, or what made you think to activate it?
When I heard the pops.
So when you heard what you thought were gunshots, you activated it again at that point before
Yes, ma'am.
you started going down Old Granite Street?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
And have you had, I'm going to show you what's been entered as State's Exhibit 70. This is about a 2.5 minute clip of the beginning, just the beginning part of your footage. Have you had a chance to review this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And does this match your recollection of those first couple minutes after you activated your body cam?
Yes, this would be Old Granite right in front of the bar.
So again, like with the last time, there's no sound in the beginning, but then the sound kicks in at a certain point?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Is that the person gesturing?
You can see her point in the direction.
Okay. Let me just adjust myself a little. And it would be nice if I can make it a little bit bigger. Weird angle they got going on. And by the way, yeah, I don't know if we're going to see a body or not or whatever, you know.
Is that the person gesturing?
You can see her point in the direction.
Point down. Point down. Point down. Get on your knees. Get on your knees.
Yeah.
Get on your knees.
You know what? Let me do something real quick. Hold on a second. It's going to take a minute, but let me just do 2 screens. That way I can switch back and forth from the regular screen to the zoomed in screen. Okay, so this one, we'll do this. You can see better because it's so like, you know what I mean? Something like that. Oh shit, did I do too much? No, I think that works. Maybe just a little smaller. Tiny bit, tiny bit. Something like that. Okay, just a tiny little shrivel smaller. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then we can switch back and forth. We get this normal stretch. All right. Take it back.
In the direction.
Point down. Point down. Point down. Get on your knees. Get on your knees. Get on your knees.
Yeah.
Put your arms out. Get on your face. Hey, somebody check in. Shots fired. Guy got shot. I'll get back there. Hey, Sarge. Weapon here. I just have a weapon.
There he is. Tall. Say, I swear it was self-defense.
Hey, Sarge, I got the weapon. Okay.
So that part at the end where you're saying that's your voice that we're hearing on the body cam, Sarge, I got the weapon.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You had mentioned that you kicked the firearm away from the defendant before Officer Belleza put him in handcuffs. Where did it wind up about in that area? I think we could kind of see a little on the video, but is it about where you're standing in this space?
Yeah, it was around the sidewalk. I know there's a snowbank, but it was around the sidewalk.
Did you take any steps to make sure that it was secure after that initial kick?
I never touched it.
Okay. What did you do to, when I'm saying the word secure, I know, did you ever physically touch it yourself?
Never.
Okay.
No.
What did you do to make sure that it was preserved, that somebody could find it?
I stood right next to it for approximately 20 minutes until I was relieved by Officer Gagney. The individual in the leather coat in the video, he was my supervisor, Sergeant Feather. He was the on-duty supervisor that night, and he relieved me at the scene.
Just let me have a moment.
Evidence, so don't speculate. Ends at this point based on some evidence, comes in part. So the video ends at this point based on some pretrial rulings I made about evidence. So don't speculate about what happened on the video or why you didn't see the rest of the video. That's based on a ruling that I made in connection with this case.
I'll speculate, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
You may, of course.
Defense?
I just want to set the scene again. So if we go over some ground that we've already gone over, I do apologize. So you were on a detail at the GOAT that evening, correct?
Yes, sir.
And by detail, you mean that essentially the GOAT hired you to be there. You were off duty, but you were there in an official capacity.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your job there is essentially to be a police presence, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you still retain all of your official police powers, right? You can detain, arrest, write reports, do all of those things, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
As a matter of fact, you testified that you're in full uniform, you have your radio, you have your service weapon, you have all the equipment that you would normally carry as a police officer when you're on duty, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's kind of the point, right? Like you're there in uniform as a presence in the bar for safety purposes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if somebody committed a crime in your presence at the GOAT, you would have the ability to arrest that person, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And as part of your uniform, you've already stated you had a body-worn camera, and we've already reviewed some of that video, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at some point that evening, you had reason to respond, and that's why you activated your camera, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, just to place this in time, was this close to closing time? Had the band stopped playing? Can you sort of give us a general idea of what was going on at the moment you felt that just prior to this altercation?
It was around 12:30 to 12:45, shortly after midnight. The band had played their last song, and people were starting to leave.
Okay. Had the lights been turned on at that point, or were they coming on, to your recollection?
I believe that they turned them on like in phases, like they would have some lights come on, but it wouldn't be fully lit.
Do you recall what time the GOAT closed?
The detail goes until 2 a.m. However, some nights, if people cleared out of the bar quickly, we would be signed out around 1:30.
Okay. It's fair to say there were still a number of people at the GOAT at the time that the incident took place.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've already told us where you were stationed and why. I'm just going to go through that very briefly with you. You're essentially at the front of the establishment, right? Between the main portion of the bar and the doorway. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Does that give you a pretty good view of most of the main portion of the bar area?
Yes, it does.
And you were in a good enough position to see that there was some sort of an altercation going on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I'm going to step you through this. Judge, could I just approach?
Yeah, of course.
So I've just started. I'm going to play this all the way through again once. And I'm going to ask you some questions as we go. Now, at some point, you turn your flashlight on, correct, to see what's going on?
Correct. Yes,
This
sir.
individual that's in front of you right now, do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
I think that this pause as well, so.
What did it show? 2 seconds? Oh.
No, I don't. Yes,
This
sir.
individual that's in front of you right now, do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
I think that this pause as well, so.
Sorry, Crystal Net says, so off-duty cop can operate as a cop when not on duty. I don't know what happened there with this guy. Why was he there already? So, I mean, I've heard it is common for cops to work security as like to get extra money. So I guess, but did he show up there quick, or was he the first person there, or was he just working that night? Even in full uniform, is this an abuse of power? The replay tomorrow will be day 3. I think tomorrow we're going to start when the trial starts. I think it starts at 11, I was told. So tomorrow we'll check it out and see. It's supposed to be a short trial. Tomorrow I'll jump on at 11. We'll be caught up tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Okay, I just saw Petrified's comments. Police or former police are probably top candidates for security jobs. Yeah, that's a very common thing. I've heard of that. Okay, off-duty as security. Petrified said, personally, I think everyone involved made bad decisions, but the law may allow for this. There's pepper spray and boasting about training involved. Yeah, I think it will depend on jury beliefs. Yeah, that's the thing where he said he's a professional fighter. Even though I don't know if he's really a professional fighter, but I did see a video on his Facebook page where he was training in boxing, it looks like, or something. Michael Jordan, the GOAT. Let me fast forward a little bit.
That's the one course they don't teach you in law school. It's how to run a computer.
I really think they can get so many people working at these courthouses with the tech now involved. I mean, I know they have tech people there, I think, but so many people looking for work. They could have a couple of IT guys at these places to help them with this setup. I've seen it several times where they're kind of having issues with the video and all that stuff. And even then, you'll probably still have problems.
This is where you start, correct? When you start moving towards the incident. Now, you've already told us that they turn the lights on at days. Do you agree it's still fairly dark inside the boat at this point?
Yes, sir.
dark enough for you to want to turn on your flashlight, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So right at this moment, you don't yet have audio, correct?
No, it would be the first 30 seconds where it would go without audio.
Yeah, we watched the raw video earlier today about what Petrify's talking about, and I was a little surprised to see that they knew he had a weapon. You know, like they pulled out the pepper spray out, and you know, the defendant, he dropped his gun and then picked it up and cocked it back. But then they still kept going after him, which is kind of wild to me, because if it was me in that situation, I just, you know,
You're making your way over.
it's not worth it. I just would have walked away. I would have went home a long time ago.
Can't pause it. I'm gonna play this for you again. We'll replay it. I'll ask you to make some identifications. We've now watched this several times. At this point, you're just making your way over, correct?
Correct. Yep.
You activate your flashlight. Now, you just previously said you don't know who this person is, right?
Correct. I don't know who he is.
Did you speak to him?
Nope.
Did he speak to you?
That sucker punch stuff too, I always thought it was so weak and cowardly. But I guess if you're desperate, you're trying to get a W. P. Baker,
So,
Brunswick.
Officer Smith, is that an
Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Thanks for the 10. Amazing.
accurate recording? Is that what happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, once you previously testified that the individual in that video, he was upset, correct? He was angry, he was upset, he was injured, correct?
Yes, sir.
He repeats over and over again, somebody had punched him in the face.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he says, come fight me. Who just punched me in the face? Come fight me. Those are his words, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's fair to say that as you followed him and everybody else outside the bar, your body-worn camera continued to record the statements of the individuals involved, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And even if you didn't hear what people were saying, your body-worn camera certainly recorded a number of statements, correct?
That's accurate. Yes, sir.
The individual in that video, he didn't get carried out of the bar, correct?
No, he walked out.
He walked out. As a matter of fact, you previously testified that he willingly left.
Yes, sir.
And as he's leaving the goat, he says, did you see that? Did you see that? Somebody sucker punched me. That's accurate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as he's leaving, he sort of repeats that. Did you see that? I got punched in the face.
Yes, sir.
And at that point, you stop in that little sort of front door vestibule area of the goat, correct? At
Yes.
which point you deactivate your body-worn camera because, as far as you're concerned, the incident was over.
Yes, sir.
So at this point, you believe that everybody who was involved in that altercation has been put out of the bar,
Yes, sir.
including the large gentleman with the injury. And you followed them out, right? You didn't lead them out. You didn't have your hands on him in any capacity, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Did at any point you leave to check and see if he required further medical attention?
After the body camera was
Turned off.
I did go up outside approximately a minute or two later.
Was he still out front of the bar at that point?
I didn't see him now.
Okay. So it's fair to say you didn't render him aid or ask him if he needed an ambulance or medical attention at any point?
No, sir.
Did you check to see, again, if any other individuals who might have been involved in the fight needed medical attention?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you see if they were all standing together out on the sidewalk?
When I was outside, I wasn't specifically looking for them. It was just me outside, just general officer presence, just me being there.
Okay. So you stepped outside. Your testimony is a minute or two later, and you didn't see anybody.
There would be the general crowd waiting for rides to be picked up, etc.
Let me rephrase. You didn't see Mr. John DeLee standing outside the goat when you stepped outside.
No, sir.
You didn't see the other individual that I pointed out that sort of passed in front of your body-worn camera that you didn't recognize.
That's correct. I didn't see him either.
Now, at some point, you were standing inside or outside of the goat when you heard gunshots.
I was outside at that time.
Okay. And as soon as you hear gunshots, did you call dispatch?
Almost immediately. Yes, sir.
And you start making your way up the street towards the sound of gunfire.
Yes, sir.
At this point, are you calling 911 are you calling over the radio that you hear gunshots?
Yes, I did.
You activate your body-worn camera so that it's recording, correct?
That's correct.
And again, if I could approach the screen, Judge. And this is an accurate representation of you making your way up the street.
Yes, sir. That's me.
Yeah, the jury is staying, yes, so.
I apologize. And you previously identified that this is the individual who was struck by bullets.
Yes, sir.
And you previously identified this as John.
Recording.
Yes, sir.
He reaches into his waistband right there and tries something on the ground.
Yes,
Put it
sir.
down. Put it down. Put it
Yes.
down. Get on your knees. Get on your knees. Get.
Counsel, I don't believe the jurors heard your question.
I understand.
Because you are looking on.
In the video we just watched, as you're walking up to John DeLee, he reaches into his waistband, correct?
Yes, sir.
He takes something out of his waistband,
Yes, sir.
and he puts it on the ground.
Correct.
That's the handgun, right?
Yes, sir.
And he does that almost contemporaneously with you having contact with him.
That's
It's
correct.
very close in time to when you testified that you start to hold him at gunpoint.
Yes, sir.
And that camera, as you previously testified, that recording essentially sees what you're seeing.
Yes, sir.
It hears what you're hearing. So the moment he interacts with you, he's putting the firearm on the ground. He puts his hands up. It's fair to say that he's fully complying with everything you're asking him to do.
Oh,
Sir.
With the
sorry.
exception of one thing, you tell him to get on his face and he doesn't do that, right? He doesn't lie down on the ground.
Correct.
But he stays there with his hands out, yelling at you, they attacked me, it was self-defense.
Judge, Your Honor, any questions? The witness?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's leading. It's cross, so these are leading questions. Go ahead.
His response to you, if you recall, was to put his hands out and say, it was self-defense, they attacked me. Correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
I have a couple of basic questions about your training, if I could. Were you trained by the Manchester Police Department, or were you trained elsewhere?
My initial training was from the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy.
Okay. And at some point in 2022, you became a Manchester police officer?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you trained by the Manchester Police or by an academy in New Hampshire?
By the Manchester Police Department.
Okay. And you became familiar with the Manchester Police Department use of force guidelines?
Yes, sir.
Now, the use of force guidelines cover a broad spectrum of force usage, correct?
Yes, sir.
From simple control techniques, the use of pepper spray, the use of deadly force, correct?
Jack, you want to maybe touch?
Okay.
All right, fast forward a little bit. But yeah, yo, thank you guys for joining tonight. Rachel was asking about the Kachava. I stopped taking the Kachava because that thing, I mean, lately too, I've been looking at, like, I've been frugal lately, just kind of looking at some of my spendings a little bit. But like that Kachava, it's a nice taste. I liked it. It's supposed to be a mirror replacement, but it honestly didn't quench any of my hunger. And it's $90 for a 15-day supply if you take it once a day. And to me, that just didn't make sense. It didn't equate. So like, when I'm gonna pay, was it 180 if I wanted 1 month supply, if I wanted to take it once a day? Right? Is that 90 times 2, 180? Yeah, that's just crazy. Like, who's gonna spend almost $200? And basically, when you look at the ingredients, it's just like a protein and multivitamins. You know, so I have this other protein thing that I take sometimes. I haven't taken it in a while. Oh, and that too, hoax. Yeah. Sued for having lead in there. Yeah.
Department have policies and procedures about the use of pepper spray?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does the Manchester Police Department consider pepper spray to be a less lethal weapon?
Yes, sir.
And it's a weapon that is used by police as part of their training and experience?
Correct. Yes, sir.
When training or teaching police officers in the use of pepper spray, does the Manchester Police Department train you that the circumstances in which pepper spray could be used could be or could lead to issues around lethal force? Sustained.
Can you repeat the question?
I'll ask a different question. Is pepper spray, strike that.
I see where he's going though, because one of the people used pepper spray on the defendant.
Does pepper spray have a disabling effect when used on individuals on the street?
Yes, sir.
Does it burn the eyes?
It does.
Does it cause difficulty breathing?
Over.
Does it cause difficulty breathing?
Yes, sir.
When it burns the eyes, can it make it difficult for somebody to see?
Yes, sir.
Have you used pepper spray on somebody in the course of your duties?
No, I have not.
No further questions, Judge.
Can you redirect?
AG1 Athletic Greens. Ever heard of that product? I've never tried it. Green powder. Really good ratings. It's $124.
Officer Smith, you testified that pepper spray is a non-lethal form.
This is a 30-day supply.
Yes, ma'am.
Accurate?
Objection. Objection. I've been eating so bad like the last 2-3 weeks. Today I'm trying to like tone it back. We're trying to like cut back, but I've been eating really bad.
So you testified that pepper spray is a less lethal form of a weapon. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why officers use it?
Correct.
One of the purposes? Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, you can step down. Why don't we take the lunch break then?
Okay.
So we will.
We'll take a lunch break, and thankfully we get to skip an hour. Otherwise, if we were live, we'd have to sit in. Well, probably wouldn't have to sit. We could take a break too. But all right, so let's see. They come back here.
So the next witness is going to be a friend of the defendant's ex-girlfriend, Olivia.
A friend of the defendant's ex-girlfriend. Okay. A friend of the defendant's ex-girlfriend. Okay.
Leonardo. And speaking with the defense, there is two things that they intend to elicit. The first of which is during opening, defense alluded to Miss Elliott, or the defense ex-girlfriend, claiming that Timmy, in passing by, challenged her to punch him. We filed motion on number 5 that was to exclude any character evidence of Timothy other than specific instances which we laid out, which was granted without an objection from the defense. It's certainly another bad act. It was not noticed up, and even if it wasn't, it's not relevant. 403, it's definitely unduly prejudicial and outweighs any potential relevancy. The defendant had no knowledge of that interaction between Abby and Timmy, so it's only an attempt to attack the victim's character.
So I don't intend to bring it in as, I guess, I don't think it's another bad act. It's not meant to smear his character. It's the mindset that he's in as he's pursuing, and the doggedness with which he is pursuing Mr. DeLee, that somebody that tries to stop him as he's pursuing Mr. DeLee, he challenges them to a fight on the way so that he can go get Mr. DeLee. So it's not a separate occurrence. I don't think it's another bad act. It's part of this pursuit of Mr. DeLee, and it's part of the milieu of exactly what's happening at the exact time the attack on Mr. DeLee is being planned and carried out.
So give me a proffer as to what you anticipate to, or what you want to elicit.
So Mr. Pouliot is running up Old Granite Street, and at the time, Mr. DeLee is past the Soho, or just about at the Soho, or just at the entrance to the alleyway. And Mr. Nash and Mr. Mendoza are up by the Soho and across the street, and Mr. Pouliot is walking at a relatively rapid clip up the sidewalk towards Mr. DeLee. And in some of the exhibits, Ms. Abby Elliott Orr, the
Oh, I forgot to turn on closed captions. Oop.
ex-girlfriend of the defendant,
Can't do it now though.
basically chases
But I'll use the one that Law and Crime has.
him down to grab him. She grabs him and tries to stop him. And at that point, he turns to her and they have a very brief interaction where, among other things, he says to her, in words or substance, go ahead and punch me in the face. She declines to do so. He escapes that interaction and continues on and confronts Mr. Boyd.
Okay. And so this is like in the moments before the sort of final fatal confrontation.
Correct. This is after the altercation between Nash and Mendoza and DeLee, and before the sort of next stage up. So yeah, this is 30 seconds beforehand.
It's well outside of earshot of the defendant. It's down the street. There's no information that anyone else heard this, and I would say that the video might counter some of the characterization of what Miss Elliott was doing when she physically came into contact with Timothy. But either way, at that time, the defendant is up the street. He had rounded the corner by Soho and has absolutely no relevance to the defendant's state of mind.
Well, but is it not relevant to Mr. Pouliot's state of mind and what's about to
I
happen
would say I
next?
don't know what the relevance at that point with his interaction with Olivia, that relevance, Timothy's alleged frustration or confrontation with Abby has on the victim's state of mind with regard to the defendant.
What's your theory?
She's trying to prevent him from having an altercation. She's trying to prevent him from pursuing the defendant. That's the context in which this comes up. And it demonstrates his state of mind at the time that he's pursuing it. Just demonstrates the aggressiveness that he has. We don't have audio of the actual altercation, so we don't know exactly what he's saying to Mr. DeLee and Mr. DeLee saying to him. But I think it's instructive to the jury that at that very moment, that's his state of mind, is that he's combative, he is intending on an altercation with Mr. DeLee, and he'll do what he needs to do to be able to do it, even though somebody else is trying to intervene and prevent him from having an altercation with Mr. DeLee.
I just have to clarify the record, the intervene stuff. She runs up the sidewalk and pushes him physically in the back. Olivia would testify that they were talking shit to each other. That would be her testimony, talking shit to each other back and forth after she pushed him. That may be Miss Elliott Orr's characterization of what she was doing, but the video evidence and the other evidence would undermine that.
Okay. Well, so I guess first off, this isn't 404B evidence by any stretch of the imagination. If there's anything that's intrinsic to the events, this is intrinsic. And so the question then comes down to, is it relevant and is it unfairly prejudicial? The events 30 seconds before the fatal confrontation, I think, are almost obviously relevant.
It's crazy. I think it isn't.
And I don't think it's unfairly prejudicial. I mean, you can, to the extent you disagree with what she's going to say, it sounds like you have plenty of ability to impeach that. So that's what trials are about.
And the other, the parties of time, the state is not intending on introducing the defendant's racist remarks. So during that portion of the testimony, the state's going to lead Miss Leonardo through that to try to avoid that coming up.
Okay.
Racist remark.
All right. Bring the jury in.
Yes.
All rise for the jury.
Did you see the guy spray the defendant? Yeah, we did. We saw that earlier today in the first stream.
Thank you. State would call Olivia Leonardo.
I can pull it up.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Have a seat. How you doing?
Her racist remark?
Good, how are you?
Good. Can you please just state and spell your last name for the record?
Olivia Leonardo, Lonardo.
Thank you. And where are you from, Miss Leonardo?
I grew up in Salem, New Hampshire, but I currently live in Windham, New Hampshire.
Okay. How long have you lived there?
About 4 years, I think.
Okay. So back in January of this year, you would have been living in Windham?
Yes.
Okay. You said you grew up in Salem. Did you go to high school in Salem?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of work do you do?
I'm a graphic designer.
Okay. How long have you been doing that?
I just started my job about 7 months ago.
Okay. All right. So I want to move on and focus on January 28th, really kind of the night of January 27th into the early morning hours of January 28th. Can you describe for us what your plans were as you led into the night of January 27th?
Yeah, so Nicole and I wanted to get together, go out. We were planning on going to the GOAT. We were just trying to think of anyone else we could get to go with us. So that's when we reached out to Abby and asked if she wanted to come with us.
Okay. Abby, what's Abby's last name?
Elliot, or.
Okay. And how did you know her?
We went to high school together in middle school.
So you guys were friends?
Yes.
Okay. So it was you, Nicole Bergeron, and Miss Elliott Orr. I assume that you don't call them by their last names?
No.
How do you address them?
I call Nicole, and Abby instead of Abigail.
Okay. So I'll use those names to try to eliminate any confusion. So before January of this year, how long had you known Abby and Nicole for?
I had known Abby since about 6th grade, and Nicole and I had been friends since, I'd say, sophomore year of high school.
Did you guys have a plan to meet anyone else when you went out that night?
No.
And so you went to the GOAT. Do you remember about what time you arrived?
I think we got there around 11, and we were standing in line outside.
And were you outside for a while?
Yeah, maybe about 20-30 minutes.
Okay. And so we're talking somewhere around 11:30 you get in.
I think so.
And what happened shortly after you finally get into the GOAT?
We went to the bar and got drinks and then went down to the dance floor. And pretty soon after that is when Timmy and his friends came up to us.
Okay. Did they introduce themselves?
Yes.
Who introduced themselves to you?
Timmy and Michael.
And how was that interaction? What was that interaction like? What was their demeanor?
We all felt kind of weird, like it just didn't feel right. They were being friendly, but it just felt like something was wrong.
And what do you mean by that?
Just kind of a gut feeling. We were just uncomfortable.
Okay. Is that because of how quickly they came up to you?
I think that was probably what had to do with it. Yeah.
Okay. And did you know Timmy and Michael before that night?
No.
Okay. And what happened while Timmy and Michael were talking with you, Nicole, and Abby?
John came over to us.
Okay. And did you know John before that night?
I knew of him, but I don't think we've ever spoken before.
How did you know him at all?
We went to high school together.
Okay. And did he know the rest of your friends? Did you all know each other?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the relationships that everyone else had?
He had dated Abby in the previous summer. And I think he knew of Nicole, but same relationship with him.
So I wonder if Abby's testifying for the prosecution or the defense or both.
Him and I, that
What's Abby got to say?
they never really spoke, to my knowledge.
Okay. And was John alone, or did he have friends with him that night?
He had friends with him.
Okay. So when he first walks up, did he walk up alone, or did he walk up with his friends?
It was just him.
Okay. And do you remember about how many friends he had with him later on?
4 or 5.
Okay. And do you remember any of the specific friends that he had with him?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you remember any of the specific friends that he had with him that night?
I knew Matt, and his friend Gage introduced himself to me, but those were the only people I knew.
Okay. And do you remember Matt's last name?
Soldano.
And how did you know Matt?
We went to high school together.
Okay. So you said when he first came up to you, he came up to you alone.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe Timmy's size?
Small.
And how would you describe the defendant's size?
Very large.
How would you compare the two?
Complete opposites.
Okay. And what did John say when he first walked up?
He asked Abby something along the lines of, "Why are you talking to this scum?"
And was that the first interaction that you saw the defendant have with Timmy that night?
Yes.
What was Timmy's reaction to the defendant walking up and making this scum comment?
They ended up kind of shaking it off and being like, "It's all good." Shook hands, and everyone kind of walked away.
Okay. And so when they left the group, where was the next place you had any interactions with Timmy or Michael?
A little bit later on, me, Nicole, and Abby went back up to the bar, and Nicole was ordering another drink, and Timmy and Michael came up to us. So that was when we saw them again.
And when you say up to the bar, was it that big bar that's up towards the front, or is it that little side bar off to the side?
The big one, like up the ramp.
Okay. And can you describe for us what happened during that interaction?
Michael and Timmy were telling us that they could knock John out in one punch. They claimed that they were pro fighters. They were just saying that they were going to fight John, and we were just like, we didn't really think that they were serious, so we just ended up walking away.
And where did you, Nicole, and Abby go after that?
Back down to the dance floor, back to John and Matt and that whole group.
And what happened there?
John had asked Abby what was said, and Abby told him they said that they're going to knock you out with one punch.
And what was John's demeanor like to that?
He was kind of just like didn't really seem that it mattered, like just kind of like, okay.
You seem happy that they had said they wanted to knock him out?
I mean, no, but he was just kind of casual about it. Okay. Like he wasn't worried.
Yeah, right.
And what happened? What happened after that? What did you see next after that?
John went up to the bar where Timmy was, and I saw him talking, kind of standing behind Timmy and talking in his ear. And then things got a little bit heated, and a bouncer or a bartender broke it up, and that's when John came back down to the ramp, back to me, Nicole, and Abby.
And what did the defendant say after he came back down the ramp?
He was saying that he was telling Timmy, like, we'll take it outside, seeing if he wanted to fight.
Okay.
Yeah, so Abby was snitching, huh? Abby went and told this guy, John, that he wanted to punch him and knock him out.
Did the defendant tell you he was scared?
No.
Did he seem scared?
No.
Did he express any worry whatsoever?
No.
Okay. And what
I'm going to try to use that against him. He wasn't in fear for his life.
happens within a minute or so after the defendant comes back down the ramp?
I might have to check out some...
Michael came down the ramp after that and punched John in the face.
Okay. And did you actually see the punch?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what happened after that altercation?
They fell to the ground and they were fighting. I kind of got pushed like towards the top of the ramp, and Nicole and Abby were still at the bottom.
And where did everyone go after that?
John had gotten kicked out, so we decided that it was time to go home. and we were all walking outside of the goat.
And what did you see as you were leaving the bar?
John was standing outside, bleeding, screaming.
And I'm just going to pause right there. Can we back up?
Yeah, sorry.
As you're leaving the bar, what are you seeing in the bar as you're exiting?
Timmy. He was still in the bar. And Abby was talking to him. She pushed him, and then we walked out.
Okay. Moving outside, you said you saw the defendant and he was yelling and screaming, correct?
Yes.
Can you describe his demeanor when he's outside?
Just pure rage.
And what were you and everyone else trying to do as far as the defendant was concerned out there?
We were trying to calm him down. Nicole was trying to clean up where he was bleeding on his face. We were telling him it's not worth it, just go home. But he just kept screaming for people to come fight him, yelling, "Who hit me? Come finish the fight." Yeah.
Was he yelling derogatory names and swears?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we're talking about this is right outside of the goat. You're on that sidewalk area,
Yes.
right? Were any of the defendants friends with him beyond just you, Nicole, and Abby?
Yes, I remember Matt was there. Gage may have been there as well.
Okay. So that when the defendant first walks out and this is all going on and he's screaming, it's you, Nicole, Abby, Gage, and Matt, and obviously the defendant himself.
Yes.
Okay. And what was Matt and Gage trying to do as far as the defendant?
Same thing, calm him down.
And at this point, where was security?
Outside the door of the goat.
Okay. So while he's screaming and he's yelling and angry, how did the calming him down work? Were you able to calm him down?
No.
Were Matt and Gage able to calm him down?
No.
What happened as the defendant was yelling these remarks?
Someone was standing nearby smoking a cigarette, and John began yelling at him, and they started fighting too.
Okay. So you saw a physical altercation between those two?
Yes.
What did you see happen during that fight?
That's when Michael came back, and once that fight had broken up, Michael had pulled out pepper spray and pointed it towards John.
Okay. And I'm going to talk about that. I want to back up just a little bit first. This altercation between the man smoking the cigarette and the defendant, what did you see during that altercation?
They were both fighting, punching each other.
Did you see anyone else get hit during that?
John did hit Abby in that.
Okay, during that altercation. Okay. And so you said Michael came over and he brandished pepper spray, correct? What was the defendant's response to that?
He pulled out his gun.
Okay. And what did you hear and see when that happened?
He took the safety off.
Okay. Did you hear that, see it?
The kind of click.
So you heard a click?
Yeah.
Okay. And where was Timmy at that point?
He was still inside the bar.
And did you see what type of gun it was? Handgun, shotgun, rifle?
Just handgun.
Okay. And what was the defendant's demeanor at that time? And by that I mean, did he look in fear? How did he seem?
He was happy.
He was not fearful, just very angry.
Oh. Jamie, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, hey Mel, what you eating? I'm eating the chicken sticks that was showing out on the screen. It's this amazing snack. It's kind of pricey. I love it though. It's really, really freaking good. So my phone is hacked. Won't let me chat unless I pay, which is amazing. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm watching on the TV, but reading my chat on the phone. Such a boomer. Thank you so much. I am going to show you guys, for whoever missed the video. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I will show you guys the raw video of the thing that happened outside with the pepper spray.
Did he ask you guys to call for help?
No.
Did he ask for help from anyone that you saw?
No.
Did he scream out that he was scared, please leave me alone?
No.
Okay. Anything that suggested he wanted to de-escalate the situation whatsoever?
No.
No.
Let's see. Could be a chase too. I don't
So
know.
what happens? So we have Michael's walking across the street. He's brandished pepper spray. Defendant's pulled out the gun. What happens after that?
John dropped the gun, and we were all screaming at him to put it away. Abby was screaming at him to put it away. She said, "Do you want to get arrested? You're being an idiot." And that's when he picked the gun back up, and him and Matt and the other friends started walking down the street. And Michael also walked away.
Okay. Up the street.
Yes.
And you said, so that at some point the defendant drops the gun.
Mm-hmm.
With everything going, is there a lot going on at that time?
Yeah.
Is it? Would you say fair to characterize chaotic?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Have you? I'll skip ahead. So, what's Abby doing as these two groups start walking up the street? What's Abby doing?
She's trying to chase after him, calling his cell phone, screaming. Nicole was trying to hold her back from running up to John. So we're trying to keep her safe, trying to go home. John and his friends, I had figured that they went home or were going home. Same thing with Michael. I thought that they were just going home.
And what was Abby screaming? You remember?
Something along the lines of, "Put it away, don't do it." It's just trying to hope that he hears her telling him to stop.
And at that point, you're near what area of are you still in front of the goat, or are you a little up the street? Where were you?
We're a little bit further up the street. It was like the Makers, like there's like a Makers building next to it.
Manchester Makerspace.
Yeah, that. We were kind of in front of their door.
Okay. And after the groups walked up the street, were you able to see where each of the groups went?
I couldn't really tell. We were mostly focused on Abby's safety.
Okay.
What's interesting, I don't know about the king queen shit that I said, but when I did a little search, it says throughout history, queens were more likely to wage war. Isn't that interesting? Throughout history, queens were more likely to wage war than kings. Damn. Savage. I feel like I've seen so many situations where friends fall out, or men with ego do crazy-ish over a woman or girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, and bravado and trying to be macho and strong, and
After
and this chick in the middle of both of these guys, he said this, he said that.
the group has walked away, do you see Timmy at some
Not
point again?
the witness here, but talking about Abby.
Yeah, Timmy walked out of the goat and walked up past us and started talking to us.
I haven't watched Game of Thrones. I need to.
And him and Abby were arguing.
Very true.
We just kept telling Abby it's not worth it. Let him go.
And do you remember anything he said?
He told us that none of what happened would have happened if we didn't tell John that what they were saying about punching him.
After the groups had walked away, did you hear anything that struck you or caused you concern?
Yeah, about 30 to 45 seconds after he walked away, that's when we heard gunshots.
And what was your response to hearing those gunshots?
Me, Nicole, and Abby ducked, and we kind of just got lower to the ground, and Nicole and I had ran away from the shots, and Abby ran towards them.
You said shots, so you heard multiple gunshots?
Yes.
Okay. And I know this sounds like an obvious question, but you said you ducked. Why were you ducking?
They sounded very, very close. So we were scared that we were going to get shot.
Okay. Were there any cars in the area around when the shooting happened that you saw?
Yes.
Did you see anybody driving or any pedestrians in the area?
Yes.
And after the shooting, what happened immediately after the shooting?
Sirens, running. I saw Michael jump over a snowbank, running away. A bouncer from the GOAT came up to us, asking us if we were okay.
Did you actually, and I apologize, I didn't ask you this before, did you actually see the shooting itself, the gunshots?
No.
So you just heard them?
Yes.
And after this, after the bouncers come and the sirens come, did you see any police come?
Yes.
At any point after that, did you ever see Timothy walk back, or did you ever see Timothy alive after that?
No.
Can you describe, you said that you've known Abby since the 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe for us how that relationship is after this?
We don't speak anymore.
And is it related to this or something else?
Related to this.
Going back to the night of the shooting.
So her and Abby aren't cool anymore, right? I guess.
Overall, how much had you had to drink that night?
Nothing.
And did you drink alcohol back then, as far as just in general?
No, I don't drink.
Okay. If I can just have one moment here on it.
Yeah, more Christmas jammy. First time I ever got them. I grew up Jehovah's Witness, so we never wore this kind of stuff. Just this year, I went and got it tonight. I was like, I want to get it for the stream, and I got
Ms. Lenaro. This state is nothing further. I assume defense counsel will have questions.
Prosecution gonna come and clean it up.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
And how old were you back in January of 2023?
I was 22.
How old was Abby at the time?
I think she was 22.
Do you know how old John was at the time?
22.
And what about Nicole?
22.
And what about Matthew Soldano?
I'm assuming 22.
And is that because you were in approximately the same year of school?
Yeah.
And what about Gage Chandler? Did he go to school with you also?
I didn't know him at all previously. I think he was a year or two younger than me.
Okay. So he was in high school at the same time, but not necessarily in your graduating class?
Yes.
Now, over to the television on screen.
Yes.
Could you please walk over to the television screen and maybe stand just to this side of it.
Okay.
And if you could point out where you are on screen.
I'm right here in the corner.
Okay, in the bottom right-hand corner,
Yes.
in a sort of light-colored top.
Yes.
And do you see Nicole on screen?
Yes.
Where is Nicole?
Nicole is next to me right here.
Just to your right?
Yes.
And can you see Abby on screen?
Yes.
And is she just to Nicole's right?
Yes.
So the three of you are against that sort of railing, for lack of a better word, correct?
Yes.
Really?
And do you see Michael Mendoza?
Yes.
Where's he?
He's right next to me right here.
Okay.
Oh, you can't even see.
And-
She's pointing, but she's pointing off the screen.
And do you
See?
Yes.
better word, correct?
Yes.
You are against that sort of railing, for lack of a better word, correct?
Yes.
And do you see Michael Mendoza?
Yes.
Where's he?
He's right next to me right here.
All right, I guess this. I'm assuming that the whole screen cuts off, but like I'm guessing this is right here at the bottom right hand corner. Maybe Michael's right next to her. I guess.
Okay. And do you see Timothy Pouliot?
Yes.
Where is he?
He's kind of closer to Abby.
Okay. And
So it's this like group right here.
with the blonde hair, right?
Yes.
And the gentleman
Right
with
here.
the white hat, do you remember him being there as well?
I do. I don't know his name though.
Do you remember, did he introduce himself as Trenton Nash to your memory?
He may have, but I know that Michael kind of
Right.
introduced himself to me, and Timmy introduced himself to Nicole. So I wasn't really conversing with.
And this is this the location where you were when John approached?
Yes.
Okay, you can sit down. Now, you had said you didn't get a great feeling during that time,
Correct.
but it was just intuition more than anything else?
Yeah.
And so John comes over and makes a comment to Abby about Timothy or about all three of them?
I was more directed towards Timmy.
But all three of them approached you at the same time, correct?
Yes.
So, and it was fair to say it was whatever the interaction was happening, even though some people might have been having separate conversations, the six of you were kind of interacting independently, correct?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 46.
Yeah, there you
Were you, how long was the conversation between just the six of you?
Maybe just a couple minutes.
It came on and went right back up. Oh, great. Sorry, I'm not trying to trip you, I promise. All right. Can you, on this screen, point out where John DeLee is? Okay. And would you say that this is just moments after the end of, or moments after the last video that we had just seen?
Yes.
And this is approximately when John made a comment to Abigail, correct?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Sorry.
Yeah, there's no audio on these videos. Okay?
Okay.
Can't see.
Were you listening to the conversation between John DeLee and Timothy Pouliot that we just observed?
I heard bits and pieces of it, but nothing super clear.
You can, well, actually, you know what? Let me just do that for a moment. Was it a friendly conversation?
Yeah, it was very, I mean, even in their body language, you could tell that they were they were cool, they were good with each other. It seemed that there was no problem between them.
Okay. So now I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 47. Sorry. Resume the witness stand, actually. To the bar to get a second drink.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, it was you and Nicole only that had gone up to the bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Abby and John stayed behind, right?
Yes.
And the area that Abby and John were staying behind was at the bottom of that ramp, right?
Yes.
And those videos that we were just watching, that was like a little bit past the bottom of the ramp, right?
Yeah.
So if you were walking from the main bar down the ramp, you would keep going a little bit to get to the place where the videos were that we were just watching, right?
Mm-hmm.
But John and Abby were standing a little bit closer to the very bottom of the ramp, right?
Yes.
And how long were you at the bar before Abby joined you?
Not very long, at most 30 seconds.
And when Abby joined you, were Timothy and Michael already at the bar at that point?
No, Abby came up to us, said John tried to kiss her, so she wanted to stay with us. And as we were kind of talking to her about what she had told us is when Timmy and Michael came back up to us again.
Okay. And you don't know whether Timothy and Michael overheard Abby's comment about John trying to kiss her, do you?
I don't think they heard, just because it's a very loud environment.
But do you know one way or the other for sure?
No.
And let's talk about the environment. Did you see how Timmy was sort of like trying to reach up to get closer to John's face?
When they were speaking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fair to say there's a band playing in there, right?
Yes.
And it's pretty crowded in there.
Yep.
So is it fair to say this is a noisy environment?
Yes.
So while you're at the bar, Timothy and Michael speak directly to you three girls, correct?
Yes.
Women, I should say, right? And when Timothy and Michael are speaking to you women, that's when they tell you that they're professional fighters, right?
Yes.
And that's also when they tell you that Timothy says he's not afraid of John, or words to that effect, right?
I don't know if he said that for sure, but I know that he did say that he was a pro fighter.
Okay. And at some point, Michael said something along the lines that he was going to knock John out by the end of the night, right?
Yes.
And did Timothy say anything along those same lines?
I don't remember. I'm not completely sure.
Okay. Did you end up getting a drink at that point?
No. If I did, it was like a Sprite. But I mostly just went with Nicole up there because she wanted a drink and I didn't want her to go alone.
Did Nicole get a drink at the time?
Yes.
Okay. Did you leave the bar after you had gotten the drink, or did you leave the bar early in order to get back to tell John what had happened?
No, once Nicole had gotten her drink, we walked back down to where John was.
Okay. And did all three of you women tell John what had transpired up at the bar?
No, just Abby.
Where you were there to overhear her telling him?
Yeah.
And did she convey all of the things that you've described on the witness stand?
What do you mean?
She told John that they said they were professional fighters, right?
Yes.
And she told John that Michael had said he was going to knock John out by the end of the night, right?
Yep.
And she told John generally to watch his back, right?
Yes.
How long was it after that John went up to the bar?
Maybe a minute, less than a minute.
And did you watch the interaction between John and Timothy up at the bar?
Yes.
And you saw John kind of give him a little shove at some point?
Yes.
And, but you weren't able to hear anything that was being said?
No.
And John came back, right?
Yes.
And I think you said John was stopped by the bouncers on the way back?
In no way. While he was talking to Timmy, the bouncers noticed that they were arguing a little bit, so they kind of separated them. And then that's when he walked back.
All right. You didn't overhear any of that conversation, right?
No.
And so when John comes back, does he say anything about what happened up at the bar?
He tells us that we asked him what happened, and he said that he was telling Timmy, if he wants to fight, let's go outside. Yeah, just kind of recapping what he said, take it outside.
And then it was kind of done, right?
We thought.
John started dancing to the music, right?
I don't really remember.
Were you all having a good time, basically, at that point?
In a way, yeah. We kind of assumed that nothing else was going to happen.
Did you see Timothy actually walk down the ramp?
When?
After the interaction with John at the bar?
I saw Timmy. I don't think I saw Timmy. I saw Michael walk down the ramp when he punched John.
Did you see Timothy and Michael speaking right before Michael punched John?
I saw Timmy kind of walking around the bar, but I don't think he came down the ramp. He didn't come near John, to what I remember.
All right. Did Michael say anything at all to John before punching him?
No.
Did you have any idea whatsoever that John was about to get punched in the face?
No. I was watching Michael because I was just like, what is he doing? He's just standing there staring. It all kind of just happened really quickly.
John didn't say anything at all to Michael at that time, did he?
No.
John didn't move towards Michael at all, did he?
No.
John didn't make any kind of threats towards Michael?
No.
Would you describe the punch as a sucker punch?
Yeah,
Definitely. It's not even a question. Yeah.
And it was a pretty forceful blow, right?
I guess.
He wound up
Yeah.
and followed all the way through, right?
Hmm.
Did you see whether Michael was wearing any rings at the time?
I didn't.
So John gets brought out of the bar, right?
Hmm.
And when you get outside, Nicole is trying to help clean him up, right?
Hmm.
And he's screaming about who punched him and other stuff, right?
Hmm.
The guy who was smoking the cigarette,
Hmm.
did you see whether he walked across the street or was you just noticed him standing nearby?
I just noticed him standing.
And he was one of those three people that was talking to the three of you women at the beginning of the night, right?
Yes.
What did he say when you first noticed him?
What did the man with the cigarette say?
Yeah.
I don't think he said anything.
At some point, did he end up in a conversation with John?
It was less of a conversation and more of pushing each other.
Did John tell him to beat feet, get lost, anything along those lines?
I don't think so.
Did Abby say anything along those lines to him?
Me, Nicole, and Abby were begging the guy not to get involved and to just walk away.
But he didn't walk away, did he?
No.
He got involved, right?
Hmm.
When did you notice Michael Mendoza on top of the snowbank with the pepper spray?
Very shortly after, if not towards the end of John fighting with the man smoking a cigarette.
Okay. And up until that very moment, you had no idea that John had a gun with him, right?
No idea.
He didn't say anything about it in your presence?
Not that I heard.
And he didn't show it to you or he didn't display it in a public way, right?
He didn't display it to me.
And so when Mendoza approaches, he stands up on top of the snowbank so that he's kind of looking down at John, right?
Yes.
And how close would you say the can of pepper spray was to John's face?
It wasn't right in his face, but maybe like a few feet.
You carry pepper spray, right?
Yes.
And have you ever had to use it?
No.
Do you know how to use it?
Yes.
Was it close enough to use?
Yes.
And you had it with you that night, right?
I did.
But you didn't get it out at that point.
No, I never took it out of my pocket.
So John pulls out the gun and drops it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you heard that click, was that before or after he dropped the gun?
Before.
And
John slipped up.
you described it as taking off the safety, but you don't know how this gun works, right?
No.
So you don't know whether he was taking off the safety or doing something else, right?
No.
And have you ever heard of racking a pistol?
No.
Was the sound consistent with pulling back the top of it and letting it go?
Yes.
When he picked up the gun off the ground, did he point it at Michael Mendoza?
No, he pointed it at him when he first took it out of his pocket, but when he picked it back off the ground, he just held it kind of by his leg.
Okay. And that's when Michael backed up, right?
Yes.
And when Michael backed up, and gave John a little bit of space, that's when John turned around and started walking back up the street, right?
Yes.
John, Matthew, and Gage walked up the street, right?
Yes.
And Michael and Trenton followed them up the street, right?
Yes.
But you and Abby and Nicole stayed behind,
Yes.
even though Abby did not want to stay behind.
Correct.
How long was it before Timothy came walking by?
Within, I'd say like 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes.
And when Abby walks by, I'm sorry, when Timothy walks by, he's not running, but he's moving, right?
He was kind of casually walking.
Fair to say, though, he originally walks past you, and Abby struggles to get away from the two of you and then chases him down, right?
Yeah, and she pushed him for a second time.
And that's when you and Nicole and Abby all have the conversation with Timothy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he dares Abby to punch him in the face, right?
I don't know exactly what he said, but I do remember there being a little arguing. I don't remember exactly what was said. I just remember telling Abby it's not worth it, and to just let it go.
She didn't punch him in the face, did she?
No.
But she did try to tell Timothy not to follow John, right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
At any rate, he got away from Abby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And followed John up the street.
Yes.
So Timmy was daring Abby to punch him? Is that what it was?
Now, at some point after the shooting, you bumped in to Trenton Nash, didn't you?
Yes, as we were leaving to walk back to the car.
Yeah.
Punch me, I dare you! Punch me! The people that missed it earlier too, like Timmy's Facebook was sent to me. It is sad that he has a daughter, a really young daughter. But as far as the training thing, I don't know. It looks like
Look, they said
he was doing this. It was like in the, I don't know if it was a gym or something or whatever. He was punching it up. Ooh, cut up. I don't know if he was really like professional in that sense, but consolidation. I don't know, man. Yeah, Abby's like, oof, you gotta be careful, man. That chick will get you killed. Literally. Dangerous. Working out. That's lightweight though, but. All right. Oh, he got muscle. He is cut though. He got muscle.
Mr. Nash is...
That's irrelevant. The objection is relevance, and so, Attorney Faulkner, what's the relevance?
And so, again, Mr. Nash is involved in joint activity.
I don't know if there's some people that just work out all the time and like, you know, go to the gym and they start like, you know, doing the punching bag and call themselves professional, you know.
With Mr. Mendoza and with Timothy Pouliot, is expressing remorse for his conduct moments after the shooting demonstrates both consciousness of guilt. It's clearly an admission against his interest, his penal interest, and also it just demonstrates that the mindset that he knew that he and Mendoza and Pouliot were in the wrong.
All the same reasons that I said up there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, to the extent it's relevant, I think the unfair prejudice outweighs it, because it's not clear what he's apologizing about. I mean, he's not apologizing to the defendant, he's apologizing to this witness and her friends, and that could be interpreted in any number of ways, including that he's sorry that they were
after this
witness. I mean, just not sure that it adds anything to the.
May I approach my notes so that I think
Sure.
it's a little bit more.
Okay, if there's more detail, sure.
So, what she told the police in a recorded interview was that he walked over to us and he looks like he just saw a ghost, and he kept just saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And she asked him, "Did anybody get hurt?" And he just looks at me and he's like, "You don't want to know." That's what Trenton Nash tells to Olivia Leonardo.
It's not. To the extent it's relevant, the unfair prejudice outweighs the relevance, so I'm not going to look. Okay. All right, so we'll take a recess, be back in 10 past.
All right, so they take a little break. Let me just show for the people that missed it earlier. We won't spend time watching it. I mean, it's not long, but we're just going to watch the relevant part. Okay. So this was inside, I believe, the goat. And Tim, I think, is right here. Timmy sitting there. I think he knows the person next to him. We'll fast forward a little bit. This is Timmy right here, I believe. Sitting here at the bar. I don't know which chick this is. Is that Abby or who's that? Well, I don't know if that. I don't know who this person is. There's a chick behind him too. He's sitting here at the bar. Let me see. Where's the ogre at? Almost 7 foot here. Okay, the ogre comes down, confronts him about, yo, like, I heard you were talking shit. Like, you say you're gonna like knock me out. Like, let's take care of this. I think that's what he said at that point, something like that. I don't think he wanted parts of it. Right here. So he's talking to Timmy at the bar. And Tim's like, what did they say, 120 pounds? That, man, he just like chucked him. The boy like flew. Chucked him. Like he barely moved his hand. He just flew. All he did was just, and the kid flew. 120 pounds. I don't even know if I ever dated a chick that was like 120 pounds. Like I don't know. The lightest chick I ever dated was many years ago. I think she was like 120, close to like 130 or something like that. So, I mean, just to put it in perspective, like 120 something, that's a very, very but it's also very muscular, but it's just very, I think they said he weighed like 125. That's a very small, like petite, like just, So this guy just, whoosh. But I think he kind of laughs it off, kind of just like whatever. Then the security comes. I think the lightest person I ever did was like close to like 130. And at that time, she was in the best shape of her life and very like whatever, probably almost unhealthy. Like, I don't know, but unhealthy light. She looked good though, but like, just for a guy, it'll be like 125. That's very, very, even though he's very cut, So anyway, so this guy, Ogre, let me see. Where's he at? He's here. Push him to the side. Security approaches him. He starts to walk off. Kind of like, I don't know, they talk to him. I don't know what they tell him. Reprimand him. And let's just skip a little forward. He's still there being talked to. At some point, you see him right here. He walks to this corner, kind of minding his own business, right? The guy with the hat here, that's John. This girl comes back. I think this girl apparently told security. I think that's why security came. No, she wasn't small. She wasn't tall. I actually dated a girl. I've only ever dated a girl that was taller than me one time. I was shocked. This chick was like. So Tim gets up and starts like walking, kind of like, I don't know. I think Tim, he knows what's going on here. He's kind of, surveying the club or whatever, the bar, but also walking towards John. And at some point, like, this people talk to him. I don't know if the security or what. They start talking to him right here. Tim. John's right here. Move it a little bit forward. Okay, so here we go. Tim's moving forward, but he walks past John. Walks past him right here. And this is where the sucker punch comes from, I guess, one of his friends. Boom. I don't even know if he hit him. He sucker punches him. They go to the floor and start wrestling. So a whole brawl. It's a mess. I'm 5'10". So it's a whole mess there in the side over there. Okay. And I guess they leave. Nah, oh man, they're trying to get me now. Nah, which video was it? Was it this one? Let's fast forward to. Not the best view. See, what does the zoom show us? Maybe if I do the zoom screen. So this guy walks from across the street. I don't know if we missed the punch yet. I feel like we did. There it is. Okay. So this guy, I think this is part of Tim's crew. Where'd that guy come from? I don't even know where he came from. Right here. Let's come out of the car. Put this guy here. He's trying to talk to John. John ain't having it. Snuffs him or punches him. Homeboy from across the street, he's like, no, I'm going to come out. I'm going to bring the pepper spray. So he comes across to approach John. He has pepper spray in his hand. John's like, nah, F that. He pulls out a gun but drops it. See that? Do it again right here. Drops it. Sluggish. Sloppy. You see him walking with the gun in his hand. He's walking with the gun. This is John's friends trying to tell him, like, hey, chill out, man. It's not worth it. Leave it. But Tim's people, they're still wanting the heat. Talking ish, kind of even following them. Bro, I would have been got the moment I seen the gun, I would have been home. And if my friends wanted to stay, I'd take an Uber and leave them too. Mess. Yeah, he racked right there. No, there's no chance. So, okay, did we miss that part too? So let me show you this other part too. I don't want to stay too long because we watched this earlier already, but the girls are sitting over here in this corner. Getting up and running. I guess that's Abby, I don't know. So it looks like they come back. They were screaming, all kinds of stuff going on, and then they come back. Kathy, it's ikemil@gmail.com. I guess she's trying to call this. I think that's what they say. Like she's trying to call, I guess, John or something. This must be Abby, I guess. Hellraiser. Go, don't go. It's not worth it. And if this is Abby, maybe this is the witness that we were just seeing. Maybe, I don't know. And while the other girl's running away, this chick is running towards the shit. Bruh. Now, I would have let that chick go. I'm trying to hold her back. You want to go towards the front? You go over there. Yeah. This video is really graphic, and I don't think that I want to show it again. But this is Tim. I'll pause it. This is the last moments, right? This is Tim. Again, this is the trial. They showed this in opening statements. But Tim is standing right here, and John is standing right here. I think it's important for all these people to see this portion real quick.
Dude, these guys are all talk.
He literally punches and hits him, and then this guy turns back and like shoots him. Pop like a bunch of times, shoots him.
Yo. Get the fuck back.
And honestly, I don't even think this guy had time to run. It must have been the way he fell. He was facing forward and maybe twisted as he fell, maybe turned on his back. It was very quick. He just went off. Mel, Abby pushes Timmy. Rewind. I have to look back and see. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I want to get through this tonight because we're gonna be back tomorrow.
Let's go!
I don't even know where Tim is at in this video. He's even there. All right. We'll definitely get more. We'll cover more of it tomorrow and stuff. Let's finish this off. It's a mess. I actually played it on the first stream. I didn't know it was gonna happen. Nah, the thing is, it's literally showing somebody that died, so I don't want to like potentially get in trouble with YouTube or something like that. I showed it on the first stream, but I don't want to like purposely knowing what's going on to show it again. It's the split screen right side. Abby pushes Tim. Okay.
For ministerial last night, we'll need we have a short witness after this, and then our next witness is fairly long, and will be a lot of text stuff, so we may need a second break just to get that set up. So I apologize.
If you email me, if you're on Discord, I'll send you the link. If you want to watch it, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the direct link. You can watch it. I don't want to play around with the main channel and intentionally do something. You know? I'll drop you the link to the website in the chat right now if you want to watch it while we get set up. I'll send you the chat. 1 second. Okay, so if you click the link that I sent you, there's a video that's like 12 seconds long.
Okay. Ms. Leonardo, I have no further questions of you, but I understand the state may have some.
You can go watch it and come back. It's the 12-second video. I just posted in the chat.
Thank you.
You know, I just
All right, so you saw a couple
of
seconds and video clips there, and we ID'd some people. Do you see John DeLee in the courtroom right now?
I do.
Can you just, if you can point out where he is, and for the record, which is recorded via audio, can you just grab a piece of clothing he's wearing?
Yep. He's sitting over there wearing a blue tie.
And Your Honor, if the court can reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
It would.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit just about a couple of things, or go back to. So that moment that Mr. Mendoza takes that swing at the defendant.
You know, that dude popped off. I think it really is important for people to see that moment. It is really important context. You know, I don't want to glorify somebody's death, or that's not what I'm trying to do, but like for the trial, the context of the case of like, you know, Tim literally swung at him, punched him, and then the guy, like, I don't know, like a Wild West, pulled the thing out and just just like, it was really, really, really quick.
Bars loud. I heard you testifying to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like a pay to see it thing. I haven't signed up. I tried a different browser and it worked. They keep trying to get you to sign up and pay that website. And ain't that some shit, right? Like, you know, if I did that, like, you got to pay to watch this thing. They lose their minds on me, but I guess they can do it. It's okay.
Would you consider that moment fairly chaotic?
Yes.
Was there a lot going on?
Yes.
Okay. And you had testified you weren't anticipating on seeing a fight right then?
No.
Okay. Similarly, when you're outside and this happens with the man with the cigarette and the defendant, a lot going on?
Yes.
You reference the defendant, he's screaming, yelling,
yes.
right? And there's Abby is screaming.
Yes.
Okay, there's a lot going on. With every...
Yes, sorry.
Apologize. Given that everything's going on chaotic, would you be surprised if there's some things, just hypothetically, that were different if they were captured on video than exactly what you're saying right now?
They might show it again during the trial. I don't know.
Ms. Leonardo, if the video showed, for example, that Mr. Nash did not actually swing at the defendant, does your memory reflect something differently?
Yes.
I don't remember who threw the first punch with that fight. Yeah, I just remember there being a fight.
Okay. You just remember that something was going on?
Yes.
Okay. You also mentioned that Mr. Nash, or Trenton, the man with the cigarette, and Michael walked up the street, correct?
Yes.
And that was after the defendant and his friends were walking up the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay. You had testified earlier, you didn't end up seeing where anyone went?
No.
As far as you didn't see if somebody went to a parking lot or a different street or anything?
No.
Okay. Just 1 second. There's nothing further.
Any further recross?
No further questions.
Okay, you can step down.
So she's done. Good, interesting witness. I want to see the other
Ready to
people.
declare
I want to
yourself?
see Abby
Yes, Your Honor.
testify.
State calls Officer Jeffrey Belleza.
The last testimony, I think, is this officer going to show some more. Oh, no, I think there's another. Maybe there's two more. And then we're caught up, and tomorrow we can start with day 3 when they start at 11. I'll probably start working on a thumbnail and schedule a stream for tomorrow, so we'll be caught up. It's kind of, I don't know, it's weird, man. Maybe not weird, but that claim was wearing rings too, yeah.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Please have a seat.
Officer Belleza, could you state your name and spell your first and last name for the record, please?
Yep, that's Officer Jeffrey Belleza, Jeffrey Belleza.
Thank you. Where are you currently employed?
The Manchester Police Department.
And how long have you worked for Manchester?
3 years.
Are you certified as a full-time officer?
I am.
I'm going to turn your attention right now to January 28th.
I posted the link on Discord too for the people that are on Discord. Whenever at your leisure, if you want to check it out, the videos.
2023. Were you working that night?
I was.
Or I should say early morning?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What shift were you on?
The midnight shift.
So you had started on the 27th and you're going into the morning of the 28th?
That is correct.
As part of your duties that night, did you respond to 50 Old Granite Street in Manchester?
I did.
And why did you respond there?
I responded there for a call of shots fired.
Do you know which officer was reporting shots fired?
That was Officer Eric Smith.
Where were you when you heard that call come out?
I was near the Delta Dental Stadium, the Fisher Cat Stadium, in that general area.
Okay, so how long did it take you to arrive at the Old Granite Street location from where you were?
I would say less than 2 minutes.
Were you on foot or were you in a car? Or?
I was in my vehicle.
What did you observe when you arrived at the scene?
I observed a large crowd, and I observed Officer Smith detaining somebody at gunpoint.
Had you seen, I think we know this, but you hadn't seen any of the events that led up to that point, is that?
That is correct.
Okay. What did you do at that point?
At that point, I ran out to assist Officer Smith in detaining a subject.
And what was your role in the detention?
My role was providing commands to that subject and then actually putting handcuffs on him.
And while you were putting handcuffs on this person, where was Officer Smith?
Officer Smith was to the left of me, just providing cover.
Were you aware whether the person had a weapon at all when you arrived?
I was aware of a weapon that was on the ground near Officer Smith. However, we weren't sure if we had another one, so at that point we were still trying to find out.
Okay, but you were aware that there was a weapon on the ground?
That is correct.
Do you see that person in the courtroom today, one that you detained?
I do.
Can you describe that person for something that he's wearing?
From that night or to right now? I'm sorry.
Could you describe what
he stood up too. I'm right here.
He's wearing a dark suit with a blue tie.
They make him stand up? He stood up. I'm right here.
May the record reflect that the officers identified the defendant, Your Honor. Were you so you were in full uniform? You were in your normal gear that night? When you
That is
responded?
correct.
Okay, so were you wearing a body cam?
I was.
Did you activate it at some point that night?
I did.
When did you activate? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Right after I got out of my cruiser, I had attempted to activate it. Realized it activated right when I pulled my weapon out.
And your body cam, like most, doesn't have sound immediately when it starts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So there's the video, but not the audio immediately.
That is correct.
Have you had the opportunity to review your body cam footage from this period of the night where you detained the defendant?
I have.
So I'm going to show you what's been entered as State's Exhibit 71. Is this the beginning of your body cam footage?
This is.
Okay. And I know it's a little blurry, but can you tell us, just orient us, what are we looking at right as this starts?
So you are, what you can see is the
defendant in the sweatshirt in front of me. I have my gun out, giving him commands at this point.
And where's Officer Smith in relation to you?
He's probably about 5 feet to my left.
Put your arms down. Look on your face. This was about 3 minutes ago. Was it this guy? You fucking punched me in the face. Hey, I got it. Hey, for now, just turn around. You're in custody for now, okay? Fucking situation. Where's your gun? Hey, Sarge, I think you went to a market basket. No, dude. What's the description? Where's the fucking other guy? Dude, what other guy? Outside, don't even know. Stand up. Just stand up. Dude, it was 3:50. Okay, just, hey, you're in cuffs right now, so just shut up. Dude, it was self-defense, dude. There was 3 of them, they punched me. Back the fuck up! Go that way! Back up! Back up! Guys, get down! It was self-defense, I swear it was self-defense. Take this that way, please. Got it. Take a seat. Just stand, that's fine, right now. Just, we're gonna ask you a bunch of questions, just, you entertain.
So your body cam continued after that point, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I'll just give another. So I'll remind you again, ladies and gentlemen, that you're not going to see the remainder of the video based on pretrial rulings in the case. So don't speculate about the portions you're not seeing. Okay.
Did you observe any injuries to the defendant when you were dealing with him?
I did.
Attention. What did you observe?
I observed a laceration. I believe it was above his left eye.
Okay. And how deep did this laceration appear to be, just from your visual?
It looked pretty minor. It looked fresh, but it was pretty minor.
Okay. In the time that you were with the defendant at the scene, did he receive any sort of medical attention for that?
From what I can remember, we brought him to be seen by AMR, and he refused medical attention.
And what's AMR?
Sorry, it's the ambulance service for Manchester.
Were they on scene, or did you have to bring him someplace?
They were on scene as soon as the scene was secured.
And he refused to have them look at it, or?
That is correct.
Let me just have a moment, Your Honor. If nothing further for you, defense counsel may have a question.
To hospital or anything. That Mr. DeLee refused medical attention. Do you just mean that he wasn't transported to the hospital or anything along those lines?
That is correct.
He was actually seen by medical staff, correct?
That's correct.
And he didn't refuse to see them or refuse to be looked at, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And in fact, throughout the entirety of your interactions with Mr. DeLee, he cooperated with every directive he was given by the police, correct?
That is correct.
He never provided any kind of physical or verbal resistance of any kind, correct?
That is correct.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
You can stay down.
Yes.
So hopefully we can get it going.
Let's take a break. Okay. Almost done. Not bad. Not so bad catching up. I want to see was it Abby? I want to see Abby. I don't know who else. I doubt this guy's going to testify, but it would be interesting if he did.
Detective Brendan Langton.
Thanks for the last one.
Detective, just watch your step over those cords and then just you can go by the TV.
Before you're seated. So we swear that
Still
this
awake.
you're
What's
about
up,
to give
Kelly?
Will be the truth, the whole truth,
Catching up.
nothing but the truth. So hope you
Caught
got
up
I do.
tonight.
Thank you, Detective Langton. For the record, can you just state and spell your last name for the record?
Brendan Langton, Langton.
And Detective, where do you work?
The Manchester, New Hampshire Police Department.
And how long have you worked there for?
Over 7.5 years.
7.5 years. Is this your first law enforcement job?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Not sure why they're just looking up at the ceiling, but
And
okay.
what's your current assignment with Manchester?
Maybe it's for a reason.
I'm a detective within the domestic violence unit where I've been for 2.5 years.
And what types of crimes and investigations do you do?
Assaults, sexual assaults, homicides, shootings, burglaries, harassment, stalking, and the list goes on from there.
And in addition to investigating like interviews and things like that, do you investigate crime scenes?
Yes, I do.
Actual scenes? Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any specialized experience or training with regard to documenting and processing crime scenes?
Yes, I have.
Take you back to Saturday, January 28th. Were you assigned to assist with the shooting of Timothy Pouliot?
I was.
Okay. And when you arrived at the scene, was that scene secured by law enforcement?
It was.
And how was it secured?
By midnight patrol officers.
And does that prevent anyone that's not authorized to be in there from going in and out of the scene?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And why is it important to restrict access like that to the scene?
To preserve the scene itself.
Okay. And with regard to that specific investigation, what was your role?
Evidence collection and scene processing.
And what areas of the scene did you investigate?
Where there were articles of evidence that we deemed to be evidence to be documented and secured.
And was that along Old Granite Street?
It was, yes.
And that alleyway adjacent to Soho Bistro?
Yes.
Okay. And you said as an evidence technician, what were your role? What was your responsibility in that role?
Taking the articles of evidence, giving them evidence identifying markers for each piece of evidence. So when we have a piece of evidence, we identify it with an identifying marker. All my evidence, I identify it as BML. Those are my initials with a dash, and then follows a numerical system identifying each piece of evidence.
And so what were your initials? I apologize if you said
BML.
BML. Okay.
Yes.
And what? Who else helped process the scene that night? Were there other officers, or was it just you?
Detective Bombard and Detective Bergeron Rosa.
And were you at the scene when it was photographed and measured?
I was, yes.
And days later, were aerial photographs taken of the scene as well?
Yes, they were.
And have you reviewed those photographs?
I did, yes.
Okay. And did those photographs reasonably and accurately reflect the layout of that general area?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And roughly how many photographs were taken? Dozens, hundreds of photographs of the scene?
Hundreds.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you to go through every single one, so we'll just go through some here today. So I want to start with, this is State's Exhibit 2, which we've seen. Do you recognize this area? You can.
Yeah, is it okay if I?
That one or that screen.
Oh, okay.
I feel like somebody had to tell him he was armed, right? Tell Tim.
But if you want to get down and point something out, Your Honor, you might have to witness steps out.
Tim, no?
Detective Langton, you may step down and direct us.
Okay. So right here is east and west on Old Granite Street here, and then Hampshire Lane right here to the east side of Soho. Or excuse me, Hampshire Lane is here to the east side of Soho.
Okay. And that's the area you searched?
Yes, within this area here.
Okay. And moving on to States 4, do you recognize this area?
Yes, that is the business the goat.
And
the goat.
So what direction would be the Southern New Hampshire arena if we're looking at the goat?
Easterly. So this is west of the Southern New Hampshire arena.
And moving on to States 5, this area, what is this?
This is just east of where the goat is, heading towards this new arena.
And what business is depicted in that photograph?
Manchester Makers Space.
All right. Moving on to States Exhibit 6. Can you just help orient us and describe what we're seeing in this photograph?
This is in the center of Old Granite Street, facing easterly. As you can see, the Southern New Hampshire Arena here is in the backdrop.
Okay, and I want to just point out a few things that we can see. There is, across the middle of the screen is a yellow tape or ribbon. What is that?
That's cordoning off where our crime scene is.
Okay, and just beyond that, between that and the Southern New Hampshire Arena, we can see a white object in the middle of the street.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
And what is that object?
That is the body of Timothy Pouliot.
Okay, and then just beyond there, and we'll have some closer photographs, but we can see some things in the roadway. What are those?
Those are evidence markers.
Okay. Moving on to State 7. Is this the same general direction, but also capturing the Bank of America parking lot?
It is, yes, facing northeasterly.
And State 8. What is this a photograph from?
This is in front of Hampshire Lane, northeast of Soho, where the body was located.
And is that yellow
general area?
I apologize. Does that yellow circle depict that area where that Timothy's body was?
Yes.
And State 9, can you just orient us?
This is facing northerly. This is the same general area as the previous photo, but we're just facing north here. And the Southern New Hampshire Arena would be right here.
And moving on to States 10, this is a little bit closer of that footage, or excuse me, that angle we saw earlier, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And now we can start to see those yellow markers that you were talking about a little bit better?
Yes.
States 11, can you tell us where we're looking from?
This is facing westerly. Elm Street is just behind where this photograph was taken. The Conoco gas station is just off of right here, and this is that same alleyway from the other photos that I've been talking about.
Okay. Moving a little bit closer, States 12. Is this just a close-up?
Yes, it is. A mid-range photo in front of Soho.
And again, we can see those yellow markers.
That's correct, yes.
And we'll talk a little bit more about each one, but just generally, what were those evidence markers? Why were they placed in those locations?
Those are identifying where pieces of evidence that we were to collect, where they were located within the scene.
And you recall generally what those pieces of evidence were?
Yes, generally, yes.
And what were they?
Shell casings, bullet defects that we did not collect but we photographed, and personal belongings as well.
When you say bullet defects, can you describe for us what you mean by that?
A divot within the road that we identify or believe to be bullet defects.
Okay. And States 13, what is this a photograph of?
Personal effects from Timothy Pouliot.
So these are the contents of his pockets?
Yes.
Any weapons?
No.
Okay. Moving on to States 14, starting to look to the right a little bit, correct?
Yes, this is looking south, a little southwest, across from Soho.
Staff, thank you.
America parking
Appreciate
lot is
that.
right here.
And then from this perspective, on States 15, is this looking to our left from that previous position?
Yes.
In State 16, can you just describe for record purposes what we're seeing in this photograph?
Evidence markers that are in the center of Old Granite Street, just north of the alleyway.
And top of the picture, is that looking down Hampshire Lane?
It is, yes, southerly.
And now State 17, where's this photograph taken from?
Looking northerly, so the previous photo was taken facing southerly, up by where that manhole cover is, to where the detective is shooting northerly here.
And States 18?
This is just north of where that manhole cover was that we saw in the previous photo, facing southeast where the Conoco gas station is.
And moving on to States 19, can you just tell us what we're seeing in this photograph?
This is the sidewalk on the north side of Canoco. An evidence marker BML1. The firearm is seen within this photograph.
So in that yellow box right there.
Yeah, that's correct.
And was that firearm collected?
Yes, it was.
And did you give it one of those evidence numbers that you had spoken about earlier?
I did.
And what was that evidence number?
BML1.
And did that firearm have a magazine in it?
It did, yes.
And did that also get a separate evidence number?
Yes.
And what was that evidence number?
BML1A.
Okay. And what is this photograph showing?
This is the firearm BML1A. Or excuse me, BML1.
Okay. And with regard to the firearm, was there a round in the chamber?
There was, yes.
Okay. Was that the item that was labeled BLMA, the bullet that was in the chamber?
I'd have to look back at my notes there.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Right.
Defense, Bates 709. That helps refresher real quick.
So the magazine was BML1B, and the chambered round was A.
Did that refresh your info?
It did, yes.
And just to clarify the record, can you just describe for us or tell us what the evidence number was for the magazine?
The magazine was BML1B.
And the round in the chamber?
BML1A.
Okay, thank you. Now, this firearm is a semi-automatic firearm, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. When a casing is ejected from the firearm, does every casing go to the exact same spot?
No.
Okay. And what are some of the things that can happen when a casing is ejected onto, say, a hard surface like a piece of pavement?
It can roll depending on the weather. If it's windy, it'll be within a general area. But when the cartridge casing's ejected, it can hit the ground. It could hit the curb or granite curbing, and then deflect off of that, or whatever surface that it's striking. It could end up deflecting and rolling away, but you'll be able to see a general area where the cartridge casings end up landing.
And if there's people walking through, running through, things like that, are the casings easily disturbed or are they not easily disturbed?
They could potentially be easily disturbed depending on the amount of people that are running through that area.
Okay. So the casing location just gives you, I think you said, a general area of where the gun fired.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So going back to those, going on to that next photograph. So you said the magazine was BLM 1B.
Yeah, BML1 B, yes, was the magazine.
Okay, and do you see that in the photograph?
I do, yes, right here.
Okay, and you just pointed to the right side of the photograph?
I did, yes.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 22, is this just a close-up of those evidence markers and Timothy's body that we talked about earlier?
It is, yes.
Yo, thank you for the super chats. Hamster, thank you for the two.
Moving on to State's 23.
Thanks for staying up and catching up with us. Love the PJs. Thank you.
What was
Christmas
20?
tree.
What was evidence marker 20
What was
marking?
If I believe correctly, BML 20 was the bullet defect that was in the room.
And did you find casings in this investigation?
Yes, we did.
How many casings did you find?
Would I be able to look back at my notes for the exact number?
Yes. Your Honor, may I approach?
AC, thank you for the super chat as well. Thank you for the 5. Says, loving your keep on chat. Thank you so much for your genuineness. I don't get it, talk. And warmth. Love watching trials with y'all. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a while, man. But I feel like we haven't really had like a really, really great one so far. I feel like next year is gonna be big with like with Kohlberger potentially, Harmony Montgomery.
How many casings did you find?
There were 9
Tupac.
cartridge casings.
That's gonna be crazy too.
And were each one of those photographed and marked with a evidence marker?
Yes, they were.
Okay. This is State's Exhibit 24. Is this one of those casings?
Yes, it is.
And State's Exhibit 25. Is this another one of those casings?
Yes, it
The
is.
Young Thug trials
This is
right now is
State's
good.
Exhibit 26.
Rico trial.
Is this one of those casings?
Yes, it is.
And State's Exhibit 27.
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 28, is that one of those casings?
Yes, it is.
And State's Exhibit 29, is that
Yes.
one of those?
That is the same, yes.
And State's Exhibit 30?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 31?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 32?
Yes.
And those were the 9 casings that you found?
That's correct, yes.
And those were found in the general area where we saw the yellow markers around the corner of Soho Bistro?
Yes, that's correct.
Just one second. Detective, you can have a seat. We're going to say there's no further questions. I think that's fine. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Judge, we have a number of exhibits that I may ask to be published to the jury as I go through them. They're exhibits that are already in evidence.
Kohlberger, they ruled they're gonna live stream it. That happened recently. They ruled that they are gonna do it.
Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon, sir.
So, Detective, just to set the scene for us, how soon after the incident call out did you arrive?
I don't recall exactly how long, but it was a few hours, if I remember correctly, sir.
Okay. So, you typically get a call how long after an incident takes place to collect evidence?
It really depends on how quickly the evidence gets relayed from the patrol division to supervisors, and then the supervisors then call us. It could be a half hour, it could be an hour. It really all depends on the information that's coming in, sir.
Okay. And when you arrived on scene, I believe you already testified to the fact that the scene had been secured by members of the patrol division?
That's correct, yes.
And when you mean secured, you mean that officers had, for instance, put up things like yellow tape, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Is it you or another detective that puts down evidence markers, or are those put down by the patrol division?
Some were put down by the patrol division, and then others were put down throughout our evidence collection, sir.
When you arrived on scene, were some of those evidence markers already there?
Yes.
Okay. You identified a number of photographs previously. I'd like you to take a look at them again. This is State's Exhibit 11, if I can approach, Judge.
Yes.
You previously identified this, and I just ask you to describe it again for the jury.
So this photo is facing westerly in the center of Old Granite Street in front of Soho.
Okay. Now, this area is well lit, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so there are street lights here?
Yes.
Okay. If I could publish this to the jury, Judge. Now, Detective, you previously identified a number of photographs of an alleyway that intersects with Old Granite Street, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you'd be able to identify the photos that you previously identified, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, it's fair to say that you arrived on scene several hours after the incident, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. To your recollection or your knowledge, did the incident take place at night?
Yes.
Okay. Those two photographs that I've just handed you, are those consistent with the photographs you just identified on behalf of the state?
That's correct, yes.
Are those two photographs pictures of the alleyway that abuts with Old Granite with the Soho Bistro on the corner?
Yes.
Okay. And those were taken at night, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the incident occurred at night?
Yes.
Yes.
15.
That would be State's Exhibit 15 and State's Exhibit 16. Now, when you arrive on scene, part of your job was to take pictures of what the scene looked like, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that was to adequately document what everything looked like at the moment that patrol officers arrived on scene, correct?
Thank you for the fire.
That's correct.
And that's to document it so that it could be shown to the jury as best as possible what the scene looked like when you arrived.
Yes.
Okay. And that includes the collection of all the other evidence, including the shell casings and everything like that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You previously spoke to the state's attorney about what you identified as BML-1A. Strike that. BML-1.
Yes.
That's the Glock firearm, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you took photographs of that firearm?
Yes. Detective Bergeron also took photos of the
Were
firearm.
you present when you took pictures of this?
I was, yes.
Okay. And you were able to identify that photograph, correct?
Yes.
Is this that photograph?
Yes, it is.
This is State's Exhibit 20. State's Exhibit 20 is a photograph of the Glock handgun as it existed at the moment that you arrived on scene with Detective Bergeron, you stated?
Detective Bergeron Rosa and Detective Bombard.
Okay. Is that an accurate representation of what it looked like?
Yes.
Okay. Is there ice on that firearm?
It appears so, yes.
Is there snow on the ground that night?
Yes, there was.
It was cold out?
Yes.
I apologize, Judge. I'd asked to publish that to the jury.
Oh, yeah, of course. If it's a full exhibit, you can publish.
Are you the detective that secured that firearm to be essentially turned into evidence?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. When you secure a firearm, do you follow up a standard procedure prescribed by the Manchester Police Department?
I clear the firearm to any firearm that I come in contact with. I clear it to make it safe prior to putting it into evidence.
Okay. So you document where you find the firearm on the ground by taking a picture of it?
Yes.
Okay. Then you take that firearm and you clear it. By clearing it, you mean you remove the magazine, correct?
Yes, I removed the magazine, yes.
And then you check the chamber to make sure that there are no live rounds.
That is correct.
And that's the procedure you used in this case?
I did, yes.
You picked up the firearm, you removed the magazine?
Yes.
And you cleared the chamber of it?
I did.
And you previously testified that there was a live round in the chamber?
That's correct, yes.
Were there also live rounds in the magazine?
There was.
Okay. And then you placed those items into an evidence box?
I did, yes.
And those evidence boxes were secured and sealed?
That's correct, yes.
And so you would have placed the magazine with ammunition in one box and the firearm in another one?
That's correct, yes.
And you placed the magazine into that box as you found it with however many rounds were loaded into it, correct?
I did, yes.
Okay. And then you placed the separate chambered round into another box, or with the magazine or with the firearm, I'm not sure which.
Yes.
Okay. And then you took a photograph of the firearm in its cleared state.
Yes.
And that's this photograph.
That'd be correct, yes.
And this is State's Exhibit 21. I can publish it. And that's standard procedure, right?
Yes, sir.
And that documents, at least for all of us, that the firearm was found loaded with rounds in the magazine and in the chamber, correct?
Yes.
And that was all documented in a police report?
Yes.
And you're able to get those evidence designators, the BML 1, 2, 3, 4, because you all documented that in a report, correct?
Yes.
Just one moment.
I think it's almost over. We made it.
The report.
I would have to look back at my report, sir.
Do you have your report in front of you by any chance?
I do not. I don't recall how many rounds there were, sir.
If I showed you your report, would that help?
Yes, I would.
I would just ask you to read it yourself. Let me know when you're done.
Got that China mystery illness that's going around now. I don't know if it's in the U.S. yet, but the respiratory should go around. Thank you, Alice. We'll catch it up. We're going to start this trial tomorrow, day 3. It's actually almost over. It's 12:30, so yeah, once this is done, I'm going to bed. And the Santa stopped working. I don't know what happened. I heard a weird sound, like a and all of a sudden Santa just stopped working.
Were you able to locate that anywhere in your report?
Yes.
How many rounds
11
were in
a.m.
the magazine?
I listed it as unknown number of rounds
Okay, so you didn't
within my
you didn't
report.
unload.
11 a.m. Eastern, Patty. Right now, I think this part right here with this guy is kind of trivial. They're just whatever. Did you hold the gun? Did you know how many rounds? Blah blah blah. Does the gun work? Does it shoot? Blah,
The
blah,
magazine.
whatever.
No, I did not.
But there were rounds in the magazine.
Yes.
And there was one live round in the chamber.
Yes.
No further questions.
Thank you.
Blah, blah. Yeah. The main person I wanted to see for day 2 was just the friend that testified, the girl. That was it.
Who the defense is going to call a witness at this point, or next, first thing tomorrow morning. So we're going to interrupt the state's case at this point, but allow the defense
Let's just see if they give us a sneak peek what's to come tomorrow.
to put on a witness. It happens sometimes in cases, and then the state will resume with its evidence. Okay, so we will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And we're
With 10 o'clock, but my friend told me 11. Let me see. New Hampshire. So is it 11 or is it 10? I don't know if Mandy's up. Because New Hampshire is 12:30 right now, just like Eastern. So he said 10.
we're still on track. So we will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And we're still on track. So we're still on track for timing. So okay, thank you.
Maybe it's 10. Hey, Mandy told me 10:30 or 11, but I think it's actually 10. Yeah, maybe I guess I'll update the time. I'll do that. So I'll update the time 10 instead of 11 Eastern.
I just wanted to spend a moment talking about jury instructions in a big picture, not in the weeds at the moment. So I guess I want to see what the state's position is about. Sounds like, I mean, there's no question self-defense instructions are appropriate. I guess the question is, what's your position on provocation, manslaughter, and then reckless manslaughter?
We don't object to the reckless manslaughter as far as provocation. We object. It's just not. This doesn't rise to the extreme. We can file something for your honor if it's great, but this doesn't rise to the level of extreme provocation that necessitates provocation instruction.
Okay. Yeah, some case law would be helpful then.
Yeah, there is a case that I'm taking out just drawing a blank right now.
All right.
I read Soho and I read. I was going to
Figure out jury
distribute
instructions.
using for the.
All right, so I'll come at 10 a.m. just to see if if they start at 10. I know, right? The mic thing is this is not the worst trial as far as mic and video, because at least we can see video and pictures. It's a little bit it's not the best because it's at the bottom. We got to zoom in, but we've had worse. All right, so we'll come tomorrow. We'll check it out. 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll see what the witnesses bring, and I mean, with the prosecution, I mean, we'll see. I know they have to cross off their whatever, but it's not a question of did this guy shoot and kill? It's literally on video, this person getting shot and killed. So I understand we gotta, there's a process, but I don't think they said it's going to be a short trial. We don't need to. We know this guy shot and killed him. It's a question of self-defense. That's it. So bring on the witnesses. I don't need to see a whole bunch of cops and forensics or whatever. It's his gun. He shot him. We saw it. But I get it. They got to cover themselves. So, yeah, that's what Meredith said. Mel, unplug Santa in case the motor gets hot. Maybe that's what happened. I've had that shit running probably for 2 days straight. I probably should have turned it off. I probably should have turned off Santa. I'm gonna unplug it and try it again in the morning and see. So, all right, man. I'll see you guys in the morning. Thank you guys so much for coming through tonight. Appreciate it. Subscribe if you're not. Hit the like button. Get some rest and sleep. I'll be up super early, crack of dawn, because I'm going to have to take Maddie to school, but then I'll come back home. I don't know what I'll do. I've been trying to exercise the last 2 days. I've been trying to go do a little bit of cardio. So, I mean, I could go come back home and take a little nap, or I could actually go jog. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, good night. Take care. Thank you guys. Bye. Bloop, 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 bloop. Adios.